Have you ever seen people boasting on social media about how quickly they can finish a large number of books? Or perhaps you've noticed the constant promotion of methods to speed up your reading. Maybe you've even felt anxious or confused, wondering if you're falling behind. What if I told you that this kind of passion for reading could be holding you back? In a time when even the brightest minds are racing to finish the next bestseller, clearly there is no way one could not fall into this thinking trap. More is better. But might it be that this relentless chase of quantity over quality is actually stifling your intellectual growth? More than 2 centuries ago, Arthur Schopenhauer, arguably the greatest philosopher who influenced many genius minds like Einstein, Schrödinger, and Nietzsche, warned against this mindset. He said, "And so it happens that the person who reads a great deal, that is to say, almost the whole day, and recreates himself by spending the intervals in thoughtless diversion, gradually loses the ability to think for himself. Just as a man who is always riding at last forgets how to walk." You might find yourself puzzled by such counterintuitive and striking statements, leaving you uncertain about how to approach reading. But don't worry, in this video, with Schopenhauer's 3 greatest insights, I'll help you resolve all your uncertainties about reading. Not just to question how you read, but why you read, and how you can transform this seemingly innocent habit into a life-changing tool for deep, meaningful growth. What you're about to learn may very well turn everything you thought you ever knew about reading upside down. Reading is often hailed as the key to wisdom, a golden pathway to knowledge, and a sure route to self-betterment. However, Schopenhauer saw hidden pitfalls in this generally held belief. He likens the mind of an avid reader to a spring that under constant pressure eventually loses its bounce. When you read too much and don't take enough time to reflect, the mind becomes rigid, similar to when you fill it with thoughts of others and at the same time are void of your own thoughts. But let us clarify that Schopenhauer wasn't opposed to reading itself. In fact, he was a voracious reader. He went through heaps of philosophy, science, and literature. But he was conscious that reading should be no hindrance to thinking, but a spur to it. Reading is like food. It must be digested, and the process of digestion will be painful if there is nothing but injudicious diet. Similarly, the things you learn from books without reflection will be a burden for your brain, such a surfeit that it will become lethargic and you will scarcely have room for new thoughts. Think of the analogy of an athlete at the peak of his physical fitness. An athlete who only studies the techniques of others and never develops them by practice will know the theory, but will never really perform. This metaphor, in agreement with the idea itself, is not given by Schopenhauer himself, as repeating another's thoughts fails to generate personal insight. Similarly, if you're forever reading without pausing to think, question, or apply what you have learned, your mind becomes the repository of other people's thoughts with little space for your own. Schopenhauer recognized this and warned that over-reliance on reading might make one really intellectually lazy, so that the mind, craving more entertainment, falls back on seeking material from without instead of developing its own. Now suppose that an overdose of reading is really hindering independent thought. Then how can we harness it as a force for good? The answer is to be selective about what we read and the way in which we engage with what we read. And this brings us to the next most important point, the choice of books. It's very easy in our busy world, where each week launches a new bestseller, to become part of the frenzy for reading what everyone else is reading. We increasingly veer toward new releases, bestsellers, and books that almost everyone is talking about. However, Schopenhauer warns us that most books are just such empty calories, satisfying for the moment, but offering little nourishment in the long run. He called such books intellectual poison, Something like weeds, which if allowed to grow in a garden, draw from and deprive the really valuable plant of light and nourishment. These books are often written for profit rather than any real substance, and they can fill our minds with shallow ideas, leaving no room for deeper, more meaningful insights. They amuse, they even teach, but they rarely transform. They are literally fast food, quickly read, quickly forgotten, and not quite satisfying. He suggests that we learn from the classics, works from ancient Greece and Rome, and other timeless works. Those are the books that have not failed in their time, possessing truths that are still very applicable today. Think of them as the sturdy oaks in the forest of literature, their roots deep in the soil of human experience, and their branches reaching out to touch the heavens. By reading these works, you're joining a conversation with the greatest minds in history. These are the minds that built civilizations, who pondered deepest questions of existence, and whose ideas continue to shape our world. Schopenhauer called this the art of not reading, knowing how to avoid those books that don't enrich the mind by positively clinging to books that truly train and elevate it. The classics are not mere books. They are the means to man's sympathetic knowledge of life, love, and death in the human condition. They give regional views passing through time to teach a man how to think and how to live. This is also the very purpose of this channel. In an era overwhelmed by an abundance of information, I will continue to share with you timeless ancient wisdom on this platform. More videos are currently in the making. Then we will talk about how to read. When you have selected the right book, read it so well that the wisdom contained in it saturates thoroughly into your mind. It is at this stage that the magic of reflective reading comes into play. Schopenhauer believed that reading without reflecting upon the content is like planting seeds in bad soil. They could sprout, but never take off. To fully derive value from what you read, you need to immerse yourself in the text and allow it to meet your thoughts and life experiences. Reflective reading means more than the textual understanding of words, for it's about soaking up the ideas and letting them alter you a little. This means stopping to think, question, and challenge what you're reading. It's a kind of mental dialogue with the author about how his or her ideas square with or differ from yours. Discussing what you have learned with others will help you sharply fix the ideas in your mind. Think of reading a book as going on a journey in time. If you go full steam ahead, you will get to your destination, but you will have missed all the insights on the way. Reflective reading is like taking the time to explore each stop on the journey, absorbing the sights, sounds, and lessons each has to offer. It's not about surviving at the end of the book. It's about the journey it takes you through. Schopenhauer also likened thoughts written on paper to tracks in the sand. You can perhaps see where someone else has traveled, but unless you take time to think about it, you won't really get what he saw on his way. The most powerful message in reading is not what you read, but how you read it. You can transform your whole life if you develop the habit of reading, using books as a guide to reflect on what is shaping your thinking and perception of the world. Reading is not about how many books you finish, but how you select and engage with them. So apply Schopenhauer, and you will make reading a lever of emancipation. Remember, your mind is a garden. The seeds are the books you choose to read. Pick them well, reflect on them, and your mind will bloom with the ages. If this video helped you think differently about reading, share it with those who can benefit from it too. I also included the link to Schopenhauer's original text in the description. Check it if you need. We are on a journey to uncover humanity's deepest truths and wisdom from the greatest minds ever. We'd love for you to join us on this journey, so subscribe, and we will see you in the next video. Read wisely, think deeply, and go live mindfully.